Seattle, Washington. Wing Chun Martial Arts Academy. August 17th, 1967. Thursday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. The afternoon sun streams through the high windows of the dojo, creating bands of golden light across the tatami. 40 people crowd along the sides of the training space, forming an irregular circle. Martial arts students, curious locals from the neighborhood, a few local journalists who had heard rumors of something unusual, something that shouldn't happen, something that began as a provocation and turned into a public challenge. Bruce Lee stands in the center of the tatami, barefoot, wearing simple black pants and a sleeveless t-shirt that reveals defined but surprisingly lean arms. 5'7". Tall, 135 pounds. At 26 years old, he is virtually unknown outside the Seattle martial arts community. He trains private students, teaches his interpretation of Wing Chun, and occasionally gives demonstrations at local events. No international titles, no Olympic medals, no television appearances. Just a growing reputation among those who have seen him move. A reputation that some call exaggerated. A reputation that Viktor Volkov decided to test personally. Viktor Volkov stands on the opposite side of the tatami. 6'2", 216 pounds of solid muscle built through 15 years of intensive judo training. He is a colossus compared to Bruce. His shoulders are broad as beams, his hands like shovels, his thighs the circumference of Bruce's arms. He wears the traditional white judo gi, the worn black belt tied around his waist. Silver medalist at the 1963 Pan American Games. U.S. national judo champion in 1965. A legitimate competitor, respected, feared in competitions. A man who has dedicated his entire life to the art of throwing, leverage, control through gripping. A man who believes, deeply, that size and strength overcome speed and technique when the physical difference is significant enough. 3 days earlier, Viktor attended a demonstration by Bruce at a martial arts event in the local community center. Bruce was showing Wing Chun techniques, breaking boards, demonstrating punches on a heavy bag that made the 154-pound equipment swing violently on its chains. The audience was impressed. Viktor was skeptical. After the demonstration, during the question session, Viktor raised his hand. His voice echoed through the hall, laced with thinly veiled disdain. All this is very impressive against bags that don't fight back. But what about against a real opponent? Against someone who can grab you? You weigh what, 135 pounds? In judo, you wouldn't even compete in the same weight class as me. Size matters. Physics matters. A strong man always beats a weak man, no matter how fast he punches the air. The silence that followed was awkward. People waited to see how Bruce would respond. They expected anger, defensiveness, perhaps a sharp verbal retort. Instead, Bruce smiled. Not a smile of amusement, but of genuine interest. "You have a valid point," Bruce said, his voice calm. "Size is an advantage. Strength is an advantage. In judo, weight classes exist for a reason, but martial arts aren't about fighting within the rules of a competition. They're about effectiveness. About using what you have against what the opponent offers." Viktor stepped forward. "Pretty words, but I could grab you, lift you, and throw you to the ground before you could land any of your fancy strikes. You'd be useless against someone my size." Bruce nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just good at demonstrations. There's one way to find out. Come to my academy on Thursday, at 3 p.m. Bring witnesses. I'll give you 5 seconds to grab me, lift me, and throw me. If you succeed, you prove your point. If you don't, maybe you'll learn something about physics that judo didn't teach you." The crowd murmured. Viktor smiled. "I'll be there, and I'll teach you a lesson about reality." Now, 3 days later, they stand face to face. 40 witnesses form a circle. Among them are other judokas who came to support Viktor, Bruce's students who came to defend their instructor's honor, and neutrals who simply want to see what happens when 135 pounds face 216 pounds. When speed faces strength. When philosophy faces pragmatism. James DeMille, one of Bruce's senior students, acts as the informal referee. He is nervous. He has seen Bruce do incredible things in training, but Viktor is enormous. The size difference is absurd. If this goes wrong, if Viktor actually manages to grab Bruce and throw him hard, Bruce could get seriously hurt. James approaches Bruce and whispers, "Are you sure about this? He's really big. If he gets hold of you..." Bruce doesn't take his eyes off Viktor. "He won't get hold of me. Trust me." James steps back and raises his voice so everyone can hear. The rules are simple. Victor has 5 seconds to grab Bruce, lift him, and throw him onto the tatami. Bruce won't attack first. He'll only defend himself. Victor can use any judo technique he wants. We start when I say so. Ready? Victor rolls his shoulders, shakes out his arms. He is confident. More than confident. He is certain this will be easy. He has grabbed 198-pound men and thrown them like sacks of potatoes. Bruce, at 135 pounds, will be like tossing a child. The only question is whether Bruce will get hurt when he hits the ground. Bruce remains absolutely still. His arms hang loose at his sides. His feet are shoulder-width apart. His breathing is slow, controlled. His eyes are fixed on Victor, but not on his face. Bruce is looking at the center of Victor's chest, the point where all movement begins. "Start!" James shouts, and immediately begins counting. 1. Victor advances. He doesn't run, but moves with the confidence of a predator. His arms extend, seeking Bruce's GI, or his waist, or any grip point. In judo, everything starts with kumikata, the grip. Once you control the opponent, you control the fight. Victor knows this. He has lived it for 15 years. His hands are inches from Bruce. 2. And then Bruce moves. Not backward, but sideways. A small step, just 12 inches, but perfectly timed. Victor's hands grasp empty air. Victor adjusts, pivots, reaches again. His arms are long, his reach superior. He should be able to grab Bruce easily. But Bruce is no longer there. Another lateral step. Smooth. Minimal. Victor is starting to realize something. Bruce isn't trying to run away. He's moving just enough. Exactly just enough. 3. Victor changes tactics. He feints a high grip and then dives for Bruce's legs, attempting a double-leg tackle-style morotegari. It's a brutal, effective technique. In judo, when you can't control the upper body, you go for the legs. Victor lowers his center of gravity and explodes forward. For the first time, Bruce's expression changes. Not to concern, but to something that looks like satisfaction. As if Victor had finally done what Bruce was waiting for. As Victor dives, Bruce plants his right foot and pivots his hip. It's a tiny movement, almost imperceptible, but the timing is absolute. Victor passes through where Bruce was, his hands grasping empty air, his momentum carrying him forward unchecked. 216 pounds of muscle and momentum, now without brakes, without direction. Bruce lightly places his left hand on Victor's back as he passes. It's not a push. It's a guide. A redirection. Victor, who was diving with all his force, suddenly discovers that his own momentum has been amplified. He is going faster than he intended. He is going in a direction he didn't choose. 4. Victor tries to plant his feet, tries to stop his movement, but physics won't allow it. He is moving too fast. His legs tangle. His center of gravity is completely off. And then he is falling, not forward as in the movement he initiated, but sideways, rolling, out of control. An Olympic-level judoka, a man who spent 15 years learning how to fall, how to roll, how to control his body in space, is falling awkwardly, like a beginner. He hits the tatami with an impact that makes the floor shake. The sound echoes through the academy. 216 pounds of muscle and bone, hitting the padded surface hard enough to knock the wind out of his lungs. 5. Victor is on the ground. His eyes are wide, not from pain, but from total confusion. What just happened? He wasn't pushed, he wasn't struck, he wasn't grabbed, he simply fell. But it wasn't an accident. It was directed. It was controlled. By Bruce, who is still standing 3 meters away in the same relaxed posture, who never touched him with force, who only redirected. The academy is silent. The 40 witnesses are processing what they saw. Half of them aren't sure what they saw. Victor gets up slowly. His face is red, partly from exertion, partly from embarrassment. He looks at Bruce. "What did you do?" His voice is hoarse. Bruce takes a few steps toward him, but keeps a respectful distance. "I didn't do anything. You did it all. You dove with all your force. You committed your entire weight to one movement. In judo, you learn to use the opponent's momentum against him, but you also learn to control your own momentum. You were so certain you'd get me that you forgot the most basic principle. When you commit all your weight to an attack and miss, you become vulnerable." Victor shakes his head. "But I've trained against that. I know how to recover. You did something. When you touched me, you pushed." Bruce shakes his head. "I didn't push. I guided. There's a difference. A push is force against force. What I did was accept your force and direct it. You were going at 100%. I just put you 5 degrees off course. Those 5 degrees, multiplied by your momentum, became 45 degrees. And 45 degrees off balance at 100% speed with 216 pounds of mass. You had no chance of recovering. Victor takes a deep breath. He wants to argue. Wants to say it was luck, a fluke, that if they tried again he'd get Bruce. But there's something in Bruce's calm, in his absolute confidence without arrogance, that makes Victor pause. You said I weighed too little to be effective against you. Bruce continues, his voice soft but clear enough for everyone to hear. You were half right. I weigh too little to fight you the way you fight. I can't overpower you in strength. I can't beat you in a judo competition. But martial arts aren't about being stronger. They're about being more effective. You have 81 pounds on me. Those 81 pounds can be a tremendous weapon. But they're also 81 pounds you have to control. 81 pounds that, if they lose balance, fall harder than my 135 pounds would. The crowd begins to murmur. People are re-evaluating what they just saw. The judokas who came to support Victor are silent, some nodding in reluctant recognition. Bruce's students are smiling, but respectfully, without mockery. Victor looks at Bruce for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he bows. It's a formal judo bow, of respect from one martial artist to another. When he straightens, there's something different in his eyes. I came here to prove you were wrong, Victor says. I came to prove that size and strength beat tricks, but you didn't use tricks. You used principles, principles I should have remembered. Bruce returns the bow. You weren't wrong to come here. Size and strength are real advantages. In equal circumstances, the bigger man wins. But circumstances are never equal. The question isn't who is stronger, but who uses what they have better. Victor extends his hand. Bruce shakes it. I'd like to train with you, Victor says. If you'll accept me as a student. I have a lot to learn about what you know. Bruce smiles, for the first time since the confrontation began. And I have a lot to learn about judo. Maybe we can share knowledge. Strength is valuable. You just need to learn when to commit it and when to keep it in reserve. As the crowd begins to disperse, animated conversations break out everywhere. People are debating what they saw, recounting every second, trying to understand exactly how 135 pounds neutralized 216 pounds without brute force. 3 local journalists present start writing in their notepads, knowing they have a story no one will fully believe, but that's too good not to tell. In the years that follow, Victor Volkov will become one of Bruce Lee's most dedicated students. He will learn that his strength is a tool, not a crutch, that his size is an advantage, but not a guarantee. And he will teach Bruce about leverage, about how a judo throw can be adapted for real combat when executed with perfect timing. The story will spread through the Pacific Northwest martial arts community. Some will call it exaggerated. Others will say Victor simply tripped. But 40 people saw it. 40 witnesses who swore that a 135-pound man made an Olympic-level judoka fly through the air without ever using direct force, without ever really fighting, just redirecting, adjusting, using the most fundamental principles of martial arts. The opponent's strength becomes his weakness. The opponent's size becomes his vulnerability. And the opponent's momentum becomes his downfall.